Hi guys, welcome to a video, and in today's video I'm going to be reviewing The Well of Loneliness by Radclyffe Hall. I hate this book. That is the review. Goodbye. This is actually my second time making this video. I made a whole video about this book. I edited it, I uploaded it, and then I was like, no, this review is a little bit too harsh, so I need to, I need to refine it, I need to sand it down. Good day to you. Okay, so this book is prolific. It's a huge part of lesbian literary history, which is why I persevered with it. It's not a small book, and it did take me, honestly, several months to finish it. However, even though the contents of the book are not good, it is such an important part of lesbian literary history, and I am a bit of a, lesbian literary history nerd, so yeah. I mean, I don't recommend that you attempt to read this book unless you are interested in lesbian literary history. So the book was published in 1928 and it was subsequently banned for obscenity. By today's standards, the book is completely vanilla. There's really nothing scandalous in it. But of course, back then, any kind of promotion of homosexuality was very spicy. It was synonymous with immorality. So there was a lot of kind of outrage and attention on this book when it came out, which, to be honest, has secured the book's place in lesbian literary history. The book is so prolific because of the fact that it was banned. And the book is very interesting in terms of seeing social and legal attitudes towards lesbianism in the early 20th century. We see how lesbianism is coalesced with immorality. So if you don't know what the book's about, it follows the life of a woman named Stephen. She is the daughter of aristocratic parents, and the book follows her journey from girlhood to womanhood. It deals with her sexuality and her gender expression, and essentially her experiences of being a masculine presenting lesbian living in society. So did I like anything about this book? Well, I think Radclyffe Hall had a lot of ovaries to attempt to publish this kind of content in the early 20th century. I give her that, and despite the book being so difficult to read and completely unenjoyable, it is an interesting look at the experiences of essentially a butch lesbian in the early 20th century. It is interesting in that regard because we see how Stephen is kind of treated by society and how that makes her feel. And even though this book was published in 1928, there's still a lot of relatable themes in it when it comes to lesbianism. Crushing on a straight woman, having to contend with men, in terms of heteronormative privilege being a deciding factor in who some women end up with. I also like the character of Jonathan Brockett in the book. It's alluded that he's a gay man, but he's the only character who has any kind of presence on the page. He's the only interesting character, but he's quite funny. So I liked that one character. And why do I dislike this book? To give it to you very succinctly, it's just pages and pages of insufferable drivel. It's very dull. The narrative moves at a snail's pace. All the characters are so dry. There's nothing interesting about any of the characters apart from Brockett. And I didn't love the class aspect of this book. So you'll find with the early 20th century, almost all of the lesbian narratives are middle to upper class. They're produced from women who are financially privileged, and this is another example of that. And what can happen, because this book is semi-autobiographical and Radclyffe Hall herself was very wealthy, what can happen is you have quite a sheltered view of the world, and there can be a lack of self-awareness around privilege, which is what this book is. And it's incredibly difficult to read as a working class person, but also just being aware of what working class women would have gone through in the early 20th century, and especially for lesbians, how their reality would have been quite different from both Radclyffe Hall's and the character of Stephen. While Stephen is definitely oppressed due to her gender expression and due to her sexuality, the money that she has allows her to shut her doors on society. She has her own property, way. You know, she doesn't deal with things like employment discrimination. You know, her money gives her an advantage over the people that she hires, for example. One thing about this book is it's incredibly self-deprecating, and the way that Stephen talks about herself and gay people as a whole, she kind of describes them as though it's almost like a gothic horror and gay people are the monster. But comparing it to other lesbian narratives, non-fiction lesbian narratives from the early 20th century, it does come across to me as a little bit too dramatic. You know, a level of self-deprecation is fine, but the self-deprecation in this novel was just... it was far too much, and it was coupled with that financial privilege. So I just had trouble feeling sorry for Stephen because of the way she was written, and also just because there was no self-awareness around her privilege. Her class privilege. Of course, the lesbian relationships in this book are quite restrained for obvious reasons. She couldn't really write a fully fleshed out lesbian relationship. Considering the time in which this book was being created, she definitely had to water things down, so I'm not going to hold that against her. I think she got the point across that she was trying to make without being incredibly overt. So yes, this book is horrible, but I powered through it because it is such a prolific piece of literature. It is interesting in terms of historical lesbian narratives. So if you're interested in lesbian history, lesbian literature, anything like that, I would say the book is, I don't want to say it's worth reading because by God. Yeah, but as I say, if you have a kind of educational approach to the book, yeah, I would say it's definitely worth looking into at the least. But as a fictional piece and just as, you know, as a novel, no, it's terrible. Okay guys, if you've read this book, my condolences. But if you have, let me know what you thought of it in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe for instant disappointment, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.